Yeah, it starts off first on like the strength part of things, the movements, and that's step one, John. Then on the field, the change of direction, the pivoting, the moving, all of those would be the things to go. So we'll just take it, as it goes, through the week. But he'd have to see all of the steps, along this week to hit those marks: the speed, the stopping, the change of direction, all of it.
Dan Quinn yesterday. Finally, we got news on Jayden's injury. Of course, it broke with the national guys right before his press conference. Dan Quinn, let's face it, if you have read some of the quotes or you watched the presser with the guys and gals on the beat, he really didn't get specific about anything. As it relates to the knee injury itself. But the reporting suggests a sprained knee. John Keim, in his story, had that the MRI last Friday revealed no serious damage. So day to day, we'll certainly learn more tomorrow and find out what he is on the injury report. And then Friday, it sounds like Dan Quinn will know for sure on whether or not Jayden will start on Sunday. I have no idea really what the outcome will be. My guess would be at this point, because of the lack of information over the weekend, the incredible secrecy around this, they did a good job of not letting anything leak out until right before Quinn spoke. The fact that Quinn was not specific even in his presser yesterday tells me that there's some concern and that there's a pretty strong possibility that Jayden will not play against the Raiders on Sunday. That is a total, tea leaf reading, not based on any information. If Jayden's injury was insignificant and not going to cause any concern as to whether or not he would play on Sunday, we would have heard that a few days ago. There's obviously some concern. He obviously got it banged up. We learned about the play in which he got hurt on it, although Quinn wasn't even specific about that in answering Nikki Jhabvala's question during the presser yesterday. But he suggested, and I think everybody figured out, it was the first play of the fourth quarter when he was forced out of the pocket by who else? Micah Parsons. And then number 20, Bullard, hit him helmet on knee. He went and played the rest of the game. Now, there was no indication of limping until he rolled his ankle on that final drive of the game. He did that, too, in the game, and he got up hobbling after that as well. But Jayden Daniels is day-to-day. My guess is we're going to get Marcus Mariota against his former team Sunday, the Las Vegas Raiders, who lost last night on Monday Night Football in the late game, 20-9, and did not look good, losing to the Chargers. They'll come east, short week, 1 o'clock kick, 10 a.m. West Coast time. Should be advantage Washington based on those indications alone. Typically they are, but with no Jayden Daniels, who knows? But we'll obviously be here to discuss this day by day because we'll have more information certainly tomorrow. Maybe not for the show tomorrow, but for other shows that come after Quinn speaks and after they practice. Now, I do have some thoughts on Jayden Daniels being injured now for a second time in 22 games in his NFL career. Last year, obviously the rib episode, this year with the sprained knee. Let's not forget he got injured in week 2 and came out for a play or two last year against the Giants. And he was on the injury report last week with a wrist injury, even though that amounted to nothing. I will get to some of those thoughts, and I want yours as well here in this first hour. We will do that. One guest on the show, actually two, but one live, Tom Shad, the new guy at the Post, is going to join us at 10:35. So 30 minutes from now, Tom Shad, who is now on the beat for the Washington Post, replacing Nikki Jhabvala, who went to the Athletic. We've not had Tom on the show. He'll join us at 10:35. And I've got a treat for you. I think I do. Most of you, or the majority of you, really loved when Cooley did his film breakdowns. He was really like a pioneer on that front. Now, he had a lot more information than most people, and certainly more than the internet film breakdown people. He knew what the plays were. He knew how they were designed, and then he was able to analyze with the all-22 the result based on the intention of the play. And he was so good at it for so long. Did it, initially with Zabe and with Galdi, and then he did it with me when we were doing the show together, and then he did it, on my podcast for a few years. And he'll do it, he'll do it again this year when he is paying attention to football, which is hardly ever right now. But on the show today will be Steve Sudter. Steve, for those of you who don't know, Steve calls Maryland football games with Johnny Holiday on the Maryland Football Radio Network, which we carry right here, Maryland and Wisconsin. This Saturday at noon at Madison, the Terps are undefeated through their first 3 games and have a pretty exciting quarterback. But that's not why you're going to hear from Steve today. Steve is a Washington fan. He's a big football fan. He's a tremendous analyst. It's why I've had him on to talk Terps and talk college football in the past. Steve, by the way, I didn't mention, was when he left college in the early 2000s, he was the all-time leading ACC punt returner in every category and owned several NCAA punt return records as well. He is still in the record books for various records in the ACC and the NCAA. He was a phenomenal punt returner at Maryland and a pretty good receiver as well. Anyway, the Maryland baseball coach, his name is Matt Swope. Matt listens to the show. And Matt reached out to me recently and he said, who'd be phenomenal at doing kind of the Cooley film breakdown? Steve Sudter would be. He is just incredible. Everybody that talks to Steve learns so much about football. So I tried him out yesterday on the podcast, and you're going to hear about 15 to 17 minutes of it. He's excellent, really good. So Steve Sudter, probably at 11 or maybe 11:25. Haven't decided yet. Our rundown is dynamic today. It's evolving as we go along. This from Timmy. Timmy writes, Sheehan, quit whining. It's an Eagles thing with you. Shove off. Yeah, I get that last part. Shove off. Thank you, Timmy. From Jason, stop your complaining. The Eagles have figured out something the rest of the league can't stop. How about come up with ways to stop it? Shut the blank up. Thank you for that, Jason. I talked yesterday about the, tush push brotherly shove being really, I think, at this point, an abomination for the league. From my standpoint, I would bet a lot of money that this thing is gone, certainly at the latest by next year. They are regretting not finding those other 2 votes. At the spring meetings. Jason Kelsey went in and did a number on a number of owners in pitching that this thing should not be abolished. And somehow he swayed enough owners to vote no on the rule change. And so we've got to deal with it, I think, one more year. I think the chance of it being legal next year is near zero. I really do. One of the reasons, just so everybody understands, pushing a ball carrier or pulling a ball carrier, pushing from behind or pulling, was illegal in the game forever until a few years ago when they started to allow it by not calling it and then by rule. I mean, you couldn't do this for most of your NFL watching days. You could not push a ball carrier from behind. You could not pull a ball carrier from behind at any point or any location on the field. It's not like, we're not talking about something that we're trying to abolish that's been around for years. We're trying to stop something that's been around for about 7 or 8 years. And then the point really is 6 tush pushes in a game, 6 plays of your marquee game. This is a television show, people. The NFL and football in general is a television show first. Hence the $27 billion in revenues that primarily come, those revenues do from television entities, streaming entities. It is a show. It's entertainment. There's nothing entertaining about this play because it's the only play in a game that has no drama and a play which the outcome is already determined before it starts. Every other play you watch, even an extra point, has some drama because you're not entirely sure of the outcome. So you're going to run 6 plays that don't look anything like football the way we watch it. Looks like rugby, a scrum, where there's zero drama, zero interest because it is a predetermined outcome. They are not going to get stopped. Now, they may get stopped on 3rd and 2 from getting a first down, but they'll get that yard to set up 4th and 1 because I saw the stat. The Eagles were 4 for 6 on tush pushes. Well, I don't know what that means because they weren't stopped from getting a first down on any of them. The 2 misses were 3rd down misses. 3rd down 2 where they just advanced it to get it into position to run it on 4th down. It's a play. Look, I don't blame the Eagles. Let me be clear on that. These are the rules. They're using the rules. They've got a big offensive line. They've got a big, thick quarterback. And they are guaranteed, if they can gain at least 8 yards on 1st and 2nd down, to maintain possession of the football, especially since they're not legislating. They're not enforcing the rules on the play. And good for them for breaking the rules on this play consistently with false starts. By the way, the opponent breaks the rules too. There are a lot of lining up on, in the neutral zone. There's no doubt about that. But there's false starts, there's offsides, both sides, and it's not being enforced. So this play, which has no interest, no drama, because it is the only play that's run in a football game where you know what the outcome is going to be, it's not enforced. And then beyond that, and this is what I've made the case for, recently, is that I know that, literally it doesn't slow the pace of the game. But when you've got 6 of these and often back-to-back on 3rd and 4th down, it is 2 plays that you can basically get up and leave the room. Like the PAT used to be, because that was pretty much a guaranteed outcome at 97% or whatever it was. And that's kind of where we are with the Philly tush push. And they did something about that. They moved the extra point back. There weren't any kickoff returns. People said, that's a play you can get up and leave the room for. Go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen, get more food, get more, something else to drink. But they fixed that. This is a play you do not have to watch. It's painful to watch, but you know what the outcome's going to be, especially if they're going to let them break the rules. It's not their problem that they're breaking the rules and getting away with it. It's the league's problem. Why aren't they enforcing this? But the pace of play to, again, not literally, figuratively, for the game to basically come to a halt for multiple plays during an offensive drive, not a PAT, not a kickoff, where you don't have to be on the edge of your seat because you know what the outcome is not good for the game. Not good for the game. I can't imagine that there isn't a bunch of, especially Sunday, with 6 of these in the marquee game of the weekend, marquee game of the early season NFL schedule and the rematch of the Super Bowl. There wasn't some hand-wringing about not getting those 2 extra votes. I do not blame the Eagles for this at all, Timmy and Jason. And it's not a whining thing. I promise you, if this were Jacksonville or Carolina doing this, I'd feel the same way as a football fan, as an NFL fan. Certainly, the fact that it is the Eagles makes it a little bit more hurtful, but it's not a reaction changer for me. It's not like I'd be in favor of it if it were somebody else. No. They're getting rid of it. Massive money, I would bet, that this thing does not exist this time next year. I don't know if they can get rid of it in the midst of this season. I don't think they can. But I would bet in the league offices and around the NFL, this is something where they're like, you got to be kidding me. We're going to watch 6 of these in the rematch of the Super Bowl, where there's literally no drama. And now Kansas City has no chance to get the ball back. And I'll add this, and I've talked about this for months now, whenever this subject has come up. I understand having a guarantee of a 1st and 10, but they're losing a lot of big play potential, a lot of yardage. You've got the best offensive line. You've got a quarterback that's dual threat. You've got arguably the best running back in the league. You've got maybe the best pair of wide receivers in the league, certainly top 5 in terms of wide receiver pairing. We know the explosive plays that happen on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1. Those are where you get super big explosive plays. You also can get stopped and turn the ball over on downs. So they're not going to take that risk when there is a guarantee that they're going to have a 1st and 10. Understood. But it is something I'd love somebody, it wouldn't take that long to go through all of the tush pushes and then to go through all of sort of the average of 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 yardage, or 3rd and 2, 4th and 1 yardage plays, and come up with the amount of lost yardage the Eagles have had by choosing to run this. I mean, there's a quid pro quo there. It's like, okay, we're going to get those big plays, but we're also going to punt occasionally because we may not make the 3rd and 2 or the 4th and 1. Go for it if we're running a normal football play instead of this abomination of a rugby scrum. I think it's really important, though, that this league, this was against the rules forever. Forever, you couldn't do it. So it's not like somebody just figured something out and, after all of these years, and you're going to end it. No, this was against the rule for 75 years or whatever it was, however long the NFL's been around, minus like 8 years. I forget how old the league is. The league's probably 100 years at this point, right?
Yeah, they hit their 100th year a couple years ago. They did that.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, so it's 106 years, 107 years. It has been illegal for probably 98 of those years, is my guess. It was. Stupid, the whole thing. All right, let's talk Jayden Daniels. We'll do that when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We are free and live on the Odyssey app, and don't forget you can watch us on the Team 980's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button when you get there. Jayden Daniels is in jeopardy of not playing on Sunday against the Raiders. Not a lot of specifics from the team other than day-to-day knee injury. He did have an MRI, but a lot of the reporting around it suggests that it is a sprained knee. We don't know what grade sprain it is, whether it's severe or moderate or, insignificant. But the reporting has been a knee sprain that could potentially keep him out of the game Sunday against the Raiders. Remember last year, of course, we had the ribs. Remember last year in week 2 against the Giants when he took a big hit to the rib area and was forced to come out of the game for a play or two. I think it was Jeff Driscoll who was the backup that day that came in. Mariota was down. It was a big hit, and that was a scary thing given that it was game 2 of his career. And now we have this. So, look, Jayden Daniels coming out of LSU, to me, and I think a lot of people, there was one concern that outweighed all others. And I didn't really have any concerns except for this one. And that was, will his frame hold up in the NFL? Will he be able to protect himself? Will they be able to protect him with play calling, with an offensive line, with a run game, the whole thing? Because he did get banged up occasionally at LSU. And, he was a hyper-competitive, I'm going for it in a lot of situations. I talked a lot about that before the draft in 2024, that, Jayden played on that team in 2023 at LSU that was truly among the worst Division I power school defensive teams in America. He knew that leaving the field meant he's going to be back on the field the next time down by at least another 7. So he really, did everything he could to keep that offense on the field. And by the way, most of the time it worked. And most of the time they were right there, keeping pace, scoring with the opponent. And they won a lot of games, but they would have been a national championship contending team had the defense just been bad instead of truly horrific, which it was in 2023. Interesting to see LSU this year. As a side note, they are dominant defensively, but really don't look that great offensively. Things change. We'll see how it plays out during the course of the year. But that was, for me, always the concern, and not knowing a lot about the personality and the person that he was other than what was coming out of LSU. You never know that from a fan position in terms of the kind of character that you're getting in a player. So we've now seen that we're in year 2 and there is an injury and there is the possibility of missing some time. Last year, he just ended up missing that Carolina game. He went out early, missed that game. It was a no-brainer, 42-19. Mariota played really well in relief, and then he was back the next week against Chicago throwing a Hail Mary to win the game. There's a chance he'll play. I'll just reiterate what I said in the opening segment. I think that the tea leaves point to this being a concern and that it's a knee, not ribs. Ribs, they'll tell you, always is more of a pain threshold thing. A knee is much different. I think we understand that as sports fans. I can't imagine they're going to let him go out there if there's any issue with the knee, if it's not fully 100%. And you heard Quinn, we played that sound coming into the show about all the markers he needs to hit before they'll let him back out onto the field. I think the secrecy over the weekend, until we heard from Quinn yesterday at 3:30, or, the reports that came out from Schefter and Rappaport's, shortly before the press conference, I think that speaks to, look, if he was totally fine, I think we would have heard he's totally fine. We didn't hear anything specific to the knee injury other than it's day-to-day. He had an MRI. It is the knee. They wouldn't say anything, Quinn wouldn't, about is it a sprain, what grade sprain it is, what did the MRI show. We've had to deal with the reporting on that. John Keim had that the MRI, according to sources, revealed no serious damage. That's the best news out of all of this. We're pretty sure we know what play it happened on early in the fourth quarter. A hit by number 20 after he was chased out of the pocket by Parsons, helmet to the knee. Although what's interesting is we didn't see him limp after that. You may say, well, why was he allowed to stay in the game if he hurt his knee on that play? He played the entire game. That meant a whole quarter if that was the first play of the fourth quarter. Well, it's very possible they didn't know that he was hurt on that play. He wasn't limping until he rolled his ankle late in the fourth quarter on that drive that made the score 27-18. Now, Jayden has to take less hits. I mean, simplifying it, he's got to get hit less. He's taking too many hits. Some of it's on him. Some of it's on other factors, like the offensive line. He got absolutely obliterated the other night in the pocket, more so than outside of it. And by the way, there's not much you can do about that with pocket passers. And he is that, as part of his overall offensive talent. He can really throw from the pocket. He can really deliver from the pocket. And quarterbacks that do that are going to take some hits. They're going to get hit after they throw it. And sometimes they're going to be awkward hits. Sometimes it's going to be a roll up on a leg or a knee. And we've seen that how many times during our years of watching football. But there are plays in which he shouldn't be getting hit. Context is everything. Let's talk about what I think needs to happen with Jayden Daniels moving forward. First of all, if you don't know this, he was the most hit quarterback last year in the NFL. And through 2 weeks of this season, he's been hit more often than any starting quarterback in the NFL. His frame, which is not a Josh Allen frame or a Lamar Jackson frame, I think if that continues to happen, if they don't figure out a way to reduce the number of times he gets hit, we're going to deal with this during his career. We're going to deal with, once or twice a year, Jayden's day-to-day. Hopefully that's all we're dealing with, and we're not dealing with something serious. So there's only so much you can do from the pocket. Quarterbacks, you want eyes to always be down the field. You want that quarterback to be protected. They went out and invested in protection for him, in Laramie Tunsil, who did not have necessarily a great game on Sunday. Nobody did on that offensive line Sunday. But it's all of the other stuff in which I would imagine they are examining, i.e., scrambling. Context is everything. Jayden goes for it a lot. He's hyper competitive. On 2nd and 6, it's in the second quarter. That's a different scramble intent than 4th and 8 in the fourth quarter, down 4. All right. He's got to pick his spots. Now, he doesn't go for it every single time. I'm not suggesting that he isn't discerning, that he hasn't, made wise decisions, but he's got to make those wise decisions all the time. Out of bounds sliding on scrambles. When in context, it's not do or die. Don't take unnecessary hits as a scrambler if you don't have to, based on score, time. Number 2, designed runs. As a quarterback which he's very effective running QB draws, there is typically a lot of space to get down rather than take a big hit. Look, we saw it in that Cincinnati game. That was a scramble, not a quarterback draw. I mean, he went for a touchdown in a preseason game. He's lucky that there wasn't a young player out there trying to make the team that went for a big hit, a blow-up hit, a make-the-team hit. Nobody seemed to touch him. They thought he had a flag on him as he went into the end zone. So QB draws, opportunity to get down, opportunity to make good decisions. Other, sort of designed quarterback runs. Well, you've got what they run: quarterback counter, quarterback power, quarterback sweep. Those plays I've been talking about since game 1 last year when they ran them against Tampa in the opener. I personally think that they should avoid those because there isn't a place to slide because you're following blockers. Typically, those plays end in the field of play in a pile. Now, you can get to the outside, and if you're outnumbering the defense blocking-wise because you're 11 on 11 in the run game, there is the feeling like that's a really effective play with a quarterback like Jayden Daniels. I agree. But I think the odds are highest on that play that he's going to be tackled sometimes in a pile. Option runs, all right? Zone read, in particular. Those plays typically offer the opportunity for the quarterback to get to the sideline on a keeper or in the field of play to slide. If he's reading that play correctly, which he hasn't done consistently over the first 22 games of his career, that particular run allows, because it's on the edge, after you stick it in the running back's gut and pull it as the end crashes down, which is the way you're supposed to run it, you're on the edge. You've got a chance to get out. You've got a chance to slide if you turn it upfield. He's got to be more discerning on scrambles based on game context. He has to feel that way on quarterback draws as well. On the quarterback design stuff, in addition to the draws, I think that those plays should be few and far between because they are the highest probability of him being tackled in the field of play. And on zone reads, on option runs, he's got the opportunity more often than not to take a hit. This is on him. It's on the coaches, but it's really on him. And understanding, and as we all do, 4th and 8, fourth quarter down 4, and he's back to throw, and he's scrambling, and there's a lot of traffic. He's got to go for it. You know, you only have 17 of these. You got to go win the game. We understand that. But, 1st and 10, first quarter, up 7-0 already, scrambling, you don't need to go into an area in which you're going to get hit. You don't have to, on a zone read, first quarter, up 7-0, decide to pull it and then, like he did against the Giants, not get out of bounds for maybe 2 less yards and instead turn it up the field and get crunched on the sideline. If that doesn't change, if he continues to get hit over and over again the way he has, we're going to miss some time with him, and he's going to be at risk. He's great. He is almost without flaw through 22 games. I mean, that's coming off probably the worst game of his career on Thursday night against the Packers. But availability is the best stability, as we know, and he's got to continue to grow and make sure that he is doing everything to stay available. All right, Tom Shad, who now covers the team for the Washington Post, will join us next.
All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is September 16th. Dan Quinn announced yesterday that Jayden Daniels had an MRI after Thursday Night Football versus the Green Bay Packers and is day-to-day with a knee sprain, putting his status for Sunday in jeopardy. The Nats, they fall to the Braves last night by a score of 11-3. Tough night to be Mitch Parker as he pitched 5 innings, giving up 10 hits and 6 earned runs. Nats will reset for a doubleheader today versus Atlanta. First game at 1:05. Jake Irvin on the bump for the Nats. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 12:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Steve Sudter, former Maryland all-time great punt returner, now part of the Johnny Holiday Steve Sudter game broadcast crew, is going to be with us on the show doing a film breakdown of the Packers-Washington game Thursday. I promise you're going to want to hear this. He's really, really good at it. Joining me right now for the first time is Tom Shad. Tom is new to the Washington Post. He's on the beat covering the team for the Washington Post. You can follow Tom on X, on Twitter, at Tom_Shad, SCHAD. Tom, I'm looking at your X account. So you went to AU. Are you from here?
No, I'm originally from Colorado, but I've been here the better part of the past 15 years. I guess.
Oh yeah, it does say Colorado native. I'm reading that right now. I missed that part.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been here for how long? Sorry.
About 15 years. I mean, I had a couple years in Memphis, but I've been around and covered this team for the Washington Times for like a year or something way back in the early aughts. So it's kind of it's a new chapter at the Post, but kind of a return in a lot of different ways.
Where were you most recently before coming back here?
I was at USA Today for about 8 years.
Got it. Covering the NFL?
A little bit of enterprise investigations, Olympic stuff. There was some NFL stuff in there, but it was mostly kind of league-wide stuff as opposed to team specific.
All right. Well, welcome back and best of luck. You joined just in time for a season that is, without question, the highest expectation season in, 25 years, probably the most anticipated season in forever. And 2 weeks into it, we have an injury. What's your hunch on what this injury is and how serious it is? We didn't get a lot from the head coach yesterday. What do you think?
Yeah, it's really hard to call at this point in the week. I mean, one of the interesting kind of subplots to come out of yesterday, what Dan Quinn was explaining was the play on which he got injured. I think I had thought that it was later in the fourth quarter than it was. The fact that it was on the first play of the fourth quarter, at least as Dan Quinn described it, indicates that he played the entirety of the fourth quarter and they actually had some success in the fourth quarter. So, that I think is one small signal that, it might not be a significant injury. Now that said, there are all these sort of macro factors, right, about what you do with a franchise quarterback, how quickly you try to bring him back, how kind of careful you are in terms of bringing him back. So it's a long-winded way of, I guess, not really answering your question. It's just really hard to say right now. And I think, tomorrow we'll get, a small glimpse out on the practice field before they close it up to reporters. But I think that will be interesting. And then, just kind of hearing how he's progressing, how he's looking as the week goes on.
We've had some experience around here with young quarterbacks with star potential playing injured and it not working out well. Do you think they knew he hurt his knee on that play and let him play the fourth quarter or not?
That's a great question. I mean, my assumption would be that he would, talk with the coaching staff about that and let them know, but I don't have any kind of sourcing or firsthand knowledge to back that up. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially with in-game injuries, it's hard to assess, for players, especially when, they're running on adrenaline and stuff, like how serious or not serious something is. And, as we've seen from Jayden over his time here, he's always going to try to play. Right. So, it could be a situation where it just felt like something, minor. And it wasn't until the adrenaline died down after the game that he was like, oh, no, this is kind of bothering me.
I think that makes the most sense because we didn't see him limp until he rolled his ankle in that fourth quarter drive that made it 27-18, which I think until yesterday, like you said, we all thought that that's where he got hurt.
Yeah. So the fact that and I was going back yesterday and kind of rewatching that early part of the fourth quarter. I mean, if he's showing any visible signs of it, it's almost imperceptible, to the average viewer. So, I mean, my guess is that, there was some communication, but, that it wasn't deemed to be that serious. And there's also a chance, mind you, that it might not be that serious now. He could be kind of,
right.
Back to normal or somewhat normal operation. And this could all be much ado about nothing. We just don't know just yet.
Yeah, we don't know. We're talking to Tom Shad from the Washington Post. But as a reporter, and you've kind of given me the answer that you don't know. But I mean, have you thought about some of, the tea leaves and reading them? Like I talked about earlier in the show, Tom, if this were insignificant, why haven't we heard that yet? Why didn't we hear that quickly? Why was Quinn so, evasive to a certain degree yesterday? Nikki asked the question about, is it a knee sprain? He didn't even answer that part of it. We've learned from reporting that it's a sprain, but we don't know what grade. Does anything in reading the tea leaves as a longtime reporter steer you in one direction or the other if you had to wager on it in terms of him playing or not playing Sunday?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think in my experience, teams and kind of team leadership, they deal with injuries kind of broadly speaking differently. I was talking about being in Memphis, and I had some time there with Justin Fuente when he was the coach, and some time with Mike Norvell when he was the coach, and they just approached injuries totally differently in the degree to which they would talk about them. My read on kind of what Dan Quinn was doing yesterday is just kind of an unwillingness to provide specifics about injuries generally. If you want to read the tea leaves, I mean, you can kind of interpret what he's saying as, that there is something definitely there with Jayden, but he's not one to offer up like specifics about anybody who's injured. I mean, we asked about John Bates and Noah Brown too, and he said they're soft tissue injuries, and
right.
wasn't going into a lot of detail on that one either. So yeah, I mean, that's why, and it's just hard to kind of read the tea leaves too much when teams are like that. As you said, I mean, we've been among the outlets reporting that it is a knee sprain. We don't know what degree or severity it is, but that's why I think I kind of pumped the brakes on kind of really looking into how Dan was addressing it, because I think a lot of that could just be like the general kind of approach and unwillingness to discuss injuries.
Yeah, he wasn't specific about Bates or Brown, but he did say that it's a long shot that either one of those two would play, and he did not, indicate one way or the other on Jayden Daniels. We're talking to Tom Shad. You mentioned something, organizationally, kind of how they handle this with, this quarterback, this franchise quarterback that's played at a very high level through his first 22 games, really until Thursday night. And whether or not, I guess for the lack of a better description, Tom, they would err on the side of caution. Do you have any sense of how they would approach that? Would they err on the side of caution, or would they say, you know what, he went through and hit all these markers and, he practiced, we're rolling with him?
Yeah, I don't have a strong sense as of this minute on a Tuesday morning. I mean, I think if you were to kind of play out the scenarios, one scenario would be Jayden feels fine. He's itching to play. He's kind of pounding on the table to play. And as long as he's checked every box, they kind of look at each other as kind of the team brass and go, well, if the doctors say he's good to go and he wants to play, we'll put him out there. Obviously, it's not as simple or straightforward as that, but it kind of just depends, I think, on them, watching him over the course of the week, and then not just hearing what he's saying, but also kind of monitoring how he's moving on the practice field and stuff, because that's one thing Dan Quinn said yesterday, is there's a certain element of protecting guys from themselves, and especially with it being week 3 and his importance to the team. I mean, there would be reason to err on the side of caution, but I think they would have a hard time keeping him out if he checks the boxes and he's bound on stable to play.
What do you think about, this young, superstar who's taken more hits in the last 22 games than any other quarterback in the league, took more hits in 2024 than any starting quarterback through 2 weeks. He's been hit more than any starting quarterback in the league. What's the solution? What's the answer to that?
That's been a really interesting, kind of part of the discourse here over the last, 48 hours. And it's something that gets absolutely no conversation when he's offensive rookie of the year and he's tearing things up and he's scrambling for these, crazy 30-yard runs and doing the stuff that he does. I think my kind of sense is that when you're hurt, everyone's going to freak out about it. when you're not, it's kind of like a non-issue. And if you kind of take both of those off the table, like this is just kind of part of the risk reward of having a guy like Jayden Daniels play quarterback. I mean, he's going to do things that other quarterbacks can't do with his legs, which is going to help you and going to win you some games. It's also going to expose him and the team to some risk that you wouldn't have with somebody who's more stationary under center. And so that's just kind of part of what you sign up for with a guy like this. But to have it be such a large part of the discourse now and kind of like forgotten when, he's playing really well, like I think, from a team standpoint and from a fan standpoint, you kind of just have to take this as like, this is part of the deal, right? Like if you want all the benefits of Jayden's scrambling and playmaking, you also have to kind of recognize that there are some drawbacks too as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking to Tom Shad from the Washington Post. All right. Of the other injuries, Wise and Eckler done for the year. Bates and Noah Brown probably out this week at least. Who's going to be missed the most, do you think? I think it's a tough question. I haven't come up with a good answer yet.
Yeah, it's a lot tougher than it appears on its face. I mean, kind of like the knee-jerk reaction would be Eckler, just because of the state of the running back room and everything that he kind of provides from a pass-catching standpoint. I think it actually might be Dietrich Wise. The part of me is tempted to say John Bates as well. I mean, these are guys that just fill very critical, if overlooked, roles on the offense and defense respectively. I mean, Bates, if you go back and watch the film, like there are so many plays that Micah Parsons impacts, particularly on the right side with Josh Connerly, where you would think that there might have been some plans to have John Bates in there helping with the blocking or chipping or what have you. So to lose him, I think, is a big blow. And then Wise, like the biggest difference to me between the first game and the second game was just the defensive line. Offensive line is kind of 1A, 1B, but Wise is obviously a huge body up there. He brings kind of a different profile than the other guys they have on that roster. And they talked yesterday about kind of, Jalen Holmes and some other solutions, guys to kind of fill in that spot. But you don't really have a good replacement for him. And I think given the way that they've constructed that defense and the importance of that defensive front, Wise, if you had to have me pick one, might be the biggest one to lose.
On Eckler, do you think there's a chance that they go out and look for an answer, via trade? There's not really anything left free agency-wise. I know they signed Chase Edmonds to the practice squad. They signed Donovan Edwards a couple of weeks ago to the practice squad. But I'm thinking like big. We know that, Adam Peters was part of the crew that traded for Christian McCaffrey midseason. Could like an Alvin Kamara, as an example, be a solution for this team? If you I think they believe they're in a win now mode, taking advantage of Jayden's rookie deal. Do you think that's in play at all with them? Something like that.
Sure. I mean, I think it's a possibility. I think it kind of depends on how the next couple of weeks unfold and how much they think the issue is a running back issue versus an offensive line issue. Like Bill looked great in week one. And I think a lot of that was just, obviously his kind of ability to kind of make some cuts and follow the blockers and all that stuff. But it largely boiled down to the line. And so I think if you start seeing kind of a resurgence from the offensive line, maybe they look at it and go, well, we're happy with what we have. As long as the offensive line is kind of opening up holes, we just roll the dice and go with that. But if they kind of get a couple weeks down the road and say, well, we're not doing enough from the running back spot specifically, yeah, I think it's feasible that they can make a move.
Do you think there's any chance they give Josh Connerly Jr. a break for a few weeks and put Wiley in there at right tackle?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. It kind of just gets to how they want to handle him as a player in the long term. Like I think obviously drafting him in the first round, starting him out there in week one against Brian Burns, who was no slouch in his own right, and then to go from him to Parsons. I took that as a signal that, they want him to kind of grow into the role and they're willing to kind of take some lumps here in the early going. I think if they wanted to ease him into action, that would have been kind of a logical move to, start Wiley at the start of the season and make a switch kind of mid-season. So the fact that they started him from week one signaled to me that they're okay with some growing pains. So, I would not be surprised if Wiley was out there this week, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they just ride with Josh against Max Crosby, and just kind of let him continue to learn on the job, which is, I mean, obviously tough, and you have to be careful because you don't want him to have too many brutal games in a row at the start of a career, because it can kind of mess with your psyche. And I'm not talking specifically to Josh, I'm just talking broadly for young players. So you have to be careful with that aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a short-term versus long-term thing, because having these reps against these pass rushers will probably help them grow in the long term. But what's the cost here in the short term?
So what did you think this team would be 2 weeks ago before the opener? And what do you think right now about the season that, still has 4 months left in it?
Yeah. At macro level, 30,000 foot view, my thoughts have not changed at all. I think you were looking at a playoff team, that has a chance to kind of get back to where they got to last year. And I don't think that anything has changed. And it's really tempting, especially in these first couple weeks, to have kind of knee-jerk reactions, because everything's kind of been unknown. But I think, when we get to the end of December, you'll look back at week 2 and go, well, the Packers were a buzzsaw. And that's just kind of the story of that particular game. They might not look as dominant on the offensive and defensive lines throughout the course of the season as they did against the Giants. There might be some regression of the mean there, but from a macro level, I mean, I don't think this team is all that different from, the team that I thought they were kind of coming into the season. Now, Wise and Eckler, obviously big blows, and we'll see what happens with Jayden and if he misses, this week. But yeah, macro level, I think the team is what the team was entering the year.
Way too reasonable, Tom. Far too reasonable for, an NFL fan. So last one for you, going back to Thursday night. What do you think from a coaching standpoint they regret the most about Thursday night's game?
If I had to put one thing out there, I think it's probably getting away from the run in the second half. That's something that Dan Quinn talked about, but I went back and was looking at the stats. In the second half, they had the ball 6 times. They ran the ball, this is from the running backs, 6 times for a total of 14 yards. And, part of that is like an ineffectiveness where they couldn't get anything going on the ground. And part of it was they just got away from it. And they became totally one-dimensional in the second half, which, Dan Quinn made the point. They weren't totally out of it. Like there's a part early in the fourth quarter where they had a shot, but they just become so one-dimensional on offense. And especially going against that pass rush and guys like Micah Parsons, you're just leaving, your offensive line totally exposed. So I think if they had a do-over, if Cliff Kingsbury had a do-over, that would be the one thing, running the ball and working to establish the run a little bit more there, especially in the third quarter.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think I felt that way after the game, but I really felt that way after listening to that answer that you're referring to, where Quinn kind of, pushed it into an answer that had nothing to do with the question. Actually, if you go back and listen to it, because it was about the offensive line specifically. But I think that's interesting. Who knows if it would have worked or not, because Green Bay's really good, but it would have been interesting had they tried it. Thank you so much for doing this. Good luck with everything. Really appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Kevin.
Yep. Tom Shad, everybody, now covers the team for the Washington Post. All right. This is the question I want to ask, and we will open up phone lines at 301-230-0980. What's the solution with Jayden Daniels? You can also answer what you hope happens this weekend. We don't know a lot. You can tea leaf read like I tried to do at the beginning of the show, but they are very buttoned up out there. And unless the doctor is talking, or unless Jayden talks, or the agent talks, we're not going to know for sure, I don't think, until the end of the week at the earliest. If you want to guess, does he play or doesn't he play, you can do that. But then what's the solution for Jayden moving forward to get out of this? We're going to have to deal with this every year, a game or two where he's going to be on the injury report, perhaps plays, not plays. maybe there isn't a solution to this, but I want you to weigh in with what do you think a solution to keeping him upright, healthy, and away from as many hits as he has taken in his first 22 games as an NFL quarterback. Phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Team 980's YouTube channel. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button when you get there. My guess is that Jayden Daniels does not play on Sunday. I have no earthly idea for sure what will happen, but for me, it's the lack of information. If he were, a strong lean to play because the injury isn't, a big deal at all, I think we would have heard that. Now, you can make the case it's a competitive advantage. on a short week for the Raiders to make them prepare for two quarterbacks as long as they possibly can. But the difference in the two quarterbacks or the two offenses stylistically, aren't that vast. I mean, Jayden's a lot better than Marcus Mariota, but the offense isn't going to change that much with Mariota. But I have this feeling that the incredible silence over a very, long weekend of waiting and looking to see if, anybody would have exactly whether or not that MRI happened and why it happened and what the results were. And then just the way that Quinn handled the press conference. Look, this is who they are. And Tom Shad, who was just on with us from the Washington Post, he's spot on. Every staff, every organization handles injuries in their own way. This is going to be more like, not exactly Belichick and the Patriots, but it's certainly not going to be what, the Snyder era team was, where literally when I tell you that you'd have multiple people inside that organization fighting to be the first person to leak something to somebody in the media, usually national members of the media. But there was absolutely no structure, no organization, no culture, and no punishment for doing so. That it was truly an S show of the highest order. That's not this group. We learned last year. I mean, they were tight-lipped about these, specifics around Jayden's rib injury. I even asked Quinn 3 weeks ago when he was on, or 2 weeks ago when he was on, going back to that thing when Jayden had admitted with Justin Jefferson and Saquon Barkley in that event that he played with a broken rib. Now, rib and knee, completely different. We understand that as sports fans, but you're just not going to get a lot from them. I just have this sense that if it was a total nothing burger, that I think we'd know that. And we don't know that. And therefore, it's a knee. I think they will err on the side of caution, even if he ends up looking good. By the way, my personal view is if he's healthy and they don't think it's an issue at all, I'm not just resting him because he might, be at risk. He's at risk every time he goes out there. You got to win this game Sunday. This is actually a pretty important game Sunday for early in the season. Considering that their next two games are against the Falcons on the road. They've looked pretty good here in the first 2 weeks, especially on defense and especially Bijan Robinson. And then the Chargers, who are 2-0. That won't necessarily feel like a road game, I don't think, at SoFi. But you kind of got to get this one on Sunday or risk a potentially rough start to the season. So if he's fine, I'm not one of those people that says, oh, well, he's fine, but he's the franchise. You got to, err on the side of caution. If there's nothing to be cautionary about, play him. If there's anything to be cautionary about, don't play him. I have a feeling there's probably something that they'd actually prefer to be cautionary about, and he doesn't play. Now, in terms of what's the solution long-term to keep this guy from getting hit as much as he's getting hit, a lot of it's on him. I think on these designed runs, these scrambles, and on some of the option runs, there are opportunities to avoid taking a hit. He doesn't always avoid those opportunities. He's not a guy that's, trying to run people over on every play like Josh Allen. He's not that. And he can't do that because he doesn't have Josh Allen's build. I think, many times he is very wise and smart, but more often than not, he will go for a couple of extra yards. He doesn't seem to mind being tackled as much as he gets tackled. He has been the most hit quarterback last year and through 2 weeks this year. All right. The data is out on that. I think he's got to be a little bit more discerning, especially based on game context. 1st and 10 in the first quarter is completely different than 4th and 6 down 4 in the fourth quarter. On zone reads, he has the opportunity to get to the sideline and maybe not pick up an extra 2 or 3 yards to avoid a hit. If he turns it upfield, he's got the opportunity to slide. I know sliding, sometimes you tend to, put at risk the headshot with somebody that's out there searching for it. I think the QB draws more often than not open field space. Middle of the field, you've got a chance to avoid a hit with a slide. I can't stand the quarterback design counters and powers and sweeps. I've talked about that for a year now. Scrambles, he's out there. He's exposed. He's got to make the right decisions, and game context has a lot to do with it. In the pocket, there's only so much you can do. The team's got to protect him better. That's for sure, because he was not protected on Thursday night. So, two-part question. Do you think he'll play Sunday? What happens Sunday? And then secondly, is there a solution to getting him hit less? 301-230-0980. Let's start with Philip in Annandale. Philip, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just don't have patience for this kind of thing at the professional level. I don't even have the patience for it in the college level. I mean, I watched that game last week. It's a one-score game for the most part, as you talked about before. And they run their star quarterback that they ranted and raved about all preseason. Oh, he's the greatest, and he really doesn't even touch the ball. He touches it 4 times, I guess, to give him an appetizer.
You're talking about Bill.
Got the ball 4 times. So it's not a mystery. I think, he'll run every now and then, but they're running these designed runs as if they don't know anything about running the football with a running back. I don't have patience for that. What's the head coach doing watching the whole game? Maybe we should have run it more. Well, what were you doing with the headset standing on the sidelines as a professional coach in the NFL? And you can see what's going on, but maybe he can't see what's going on. And then you don't want to run the ball. The passing game, they make that a little bit of a mystery too. They don't pay attention to what's happening at the moment. They don't run the ball. And then what's wrong with 3 yards of carry, 2nd and 4 once in a while, or 2nd and 3, or I'm sorry, 3rd and 4, or 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. You can't get that? And if your guys aren't getting open, why aren't they running some quick hitters? Or why aren't they giving the ball to their running backs, in passing situations, just getting them quick hit passes to the running backs, because they'll usually win one-on-ones against linebackers, and they can pick up 5 or 6 yards. Sonny Jurgensen would come off the bench. For people, most people don't know this, but when Billy Kilmer was stinking up the game, nothing was working all game, and Sonny would come in the 4th quarter and have to win the game down 2 scores, and he would do it. Nothing's working all day long. You know what he would do? He'd come out immediately, a 5-yard out pass to Charlie Taylor. The next play is a 5-yard out pass to Roy Jefferson. Then he'd do a 5-yard out pass to Charlie Taylor again. And then all of a sudden, the whole game changed on 3 simple 5-yard out passes. The defense was on its heels. They had to come up on the receiver, and he just ate them alive. Then the running game started working.
Philip,
professional football.
This is an excellent call, but I want to boil it down to this, because I think you're leaning in this direction. They can protect him by running the football effectively and more often and being a bit more balanced. They were not balanced on Thursday night. That is for sure. And the score of the game was never out of control. By the way, there's no guarantee it would have worked, but I don't disagree that sort of the big takeaway from your call, other than I loved, envisioning Sonny throwing the 5-yard out to 42 and then to 80 on the other side, Roy Jefferson. I love that. And I'm just old enough to remember some of that. But yeah, running the football, a running game is a quarterback's best friend, and it's protective of the quarterback. I agree with you. Thanks for the call. Good call. Let's go to Ben in Iowa. Ben, do you think he'll play Sunday? And then B, what's the solution to getting Jayden to not take so many hits?
Hey, Kevin, I think they'll be safe and not allow him to play. This does unfortunately smell like an RG3 part 2, just because of the nature of a running quarterback who's smaller and going to play hero ball. I called 2 weeks ago, and I know everybody was 14 wins. I was in the 9-8 camp because we don't know that we have a running game. And I think that's the solution, is pounding the rock. But why was Eckler starting week 1? My thing is, I don't think Bill knows protections well enough. I think that has been out there. I don't know. I think it's just run more, and Jayden needs to throw the ball away when it's 1st, 2nd down, and not 4th quarter like you said. So some things need to happen, but it's concerning. It's definitely the dark side to this. Something we want to be very excited about. This quarterback, this new franchise that's resurged, but it's the dark side of Jayden, and we're going to have to deal with this throughout his career. Missing probably a third of the season on average. So,
well, he didn't miss a third of the season last year. He didn't miss a start last year. He missed the Carolina game after he came out early, and we don't know that he's missed a third of the season. Look, Lamar Jackson's missed some games, and it hurt their seasons. Here's the thing that I don't think should change, and I appreciate the call, Ben. You're not changing the offense, okay? Jayden's greatest, the greatest part of Jayden Daniels is that he can do everything. You're not going to take away a big part of his game, which is his legs. First of all, 21st century is certainly 2025 NFL football. You've got to find mobility in quarterbacks. They've got to be able to extend plays. They've got to be able to make plays with their legs and their arm on the same play. You're never going to take that away. Jayden being a part of the run game, you should never take away. It's a big part of what makes them so hard to defend. I think what you have to reduce is the number of times he gets hit. So running the football and developing a decent run game with your running backs certainly would take some pressure off, especially if you end up, having running backs carry the ball 18, 20, 22, 24 times a game. If you could get that out of your backs. You certainly didn't get that the other night. There were 12 carries. In the opener, it was probably higher than that. I'd have to go back and look, but it was higher than the 12, certainly. But I think overall, there has to be a more discerning approach to Jayden's using of his legs. I think from a play calling standpoint, for me, I hate the Cam Newton quarterback powers, the Josh Allen quarterback powers, quarterback counters. I just don't think he's got the build for that. He's not going to overpower people. When you see Josh Allen take a snap in shotgun and they pull guards and they're running truly a quarterback counter, which is what they used to do with Cam Newton in Carolina. He can do that. He's a large, physical human being. So was Cam. That's not for Jayden, in my opinion. I understand the benefit of overloading and 11 on 11 in the run game, and you pull those guards and you are out there with 6 on 5 blocking on one side with Jayden as the ball carrier, and he's a really good ball carrier. But those plays end so often in a pile. Let's go to our guy Lap. Lap, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Thanks for taking my call, bro. Yeah, man. I believe he's going to play, but they still need to make sure that they test him out the rest of the week to make sure, because if he's not ready, go with Mariota. We need to run the football more. I think we need a younger tight end. We got a younger tight end on the roster. We need to use him more. I know we've been using tight ends for blocking purposes, but I thought that if we address the offensive line, that we would use the tight ends more so in the offense, because I think he needs like a safety net, and it's unfortunate with Eckler because, if stuff break down, you can kind of throw it to Eckler, or if you had a really good tight end, because we're used to having good tight ends. And I like Zach Ertz, but at some point we need to address that position, for sure. And like I said, protect them and run the football. And we need to run a Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur type offense, man. I think it'd be suited better for him. And let me ask you a question too about the tush push, Kevin. You said you don't like it and you think the rules need to be changed for it. And
yes, I've been in favor of abolishing that play for a while now.
Well, isn't it like a quarterback sneak in a sense?
No,
because
it's not like a quarterback sneak. No, because there are two players from behind pushing the quarterback.
Okay, so but on some run plays, don't offensive players push the runner?
Yeah, not from behind the line of scrimmage. Not from behind the line of scrimmage in a bunched up scrum. Yeah. By the way, you bring up an interesting point. Like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback sneak guy without the two players or, pushing him from behind would probably be a damn good quarterback sneak QB because of his lower body strength.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I can't stand the play. I can't stand the formation. I can't stand the way it's not officiated, because essentially there are rule breakers on every single one of those plays. And there's no drama in the play because it's a foregone conclusion. That's not what we love about the NFL. It's a television show, and it's ruining the television part of it. I think Sunday's game was an abomination to see that thing run six times. And I think the league office is pissed in a big-time way that they didn't vote this thing out before this season. Thanks, Lap. Appreciate it. Let's go to Cam in D.C. Cam, do you think he plays Sunday, yes or no? And do you have a solution to minimizing the hits on Jayden in the future?
What's up, Kevin? I don't think he plays Sunday, but I appreciate you giving me the opt-out and saying I don't have a solution, because I do think, if you watch him, especially from the TV broadcast, he really loves the game of football. He's smiling, he's jarring with some of the best defensive ends in the game. I think he kind of enjoys the hits, and I don't know what kind of consequences. But it's insane. He's really a baller. But I will say, I think some of the social media and national dialogue about it, I think Mina Kimes said his play is unsustainable. What I do want to see is the breakdown of his hits both this year and last year on design runs versus scrambles, because last year, didn't have the best pass pro, receivers not getting separation. I think I've missed your film breakdown so far this year, but I think we're probably seeing the same on the all 22 with receivers not getting separation. So he definitely totally agree with you. He can do a better job of getting out of bounds or sliding on the scrambles, but I do think people are overstating how many design runs. To your point, I think the really bad ones are the counters and the powers. But I do think people are actually overstating his use as a running back, so to speak, in the run game. I think most of those are, he correctly pulled on a read option when he does it, and then obviously, scrambles from breakdown and pass pros or no one.
Yeah, there were a couple of games last year where they called the quarterback, powers and the quarterback counters multiple times in games. That is a designed run play, as are QB draws. We saw a couple of those in the Giant game, right? I think we did. But the rest of it is scramble and options. Something that the last caller mentioned, I think it was Lap, maybe there's a different style of offense, and he mentioned the Kyle, LaFleur, McVay, the Shanahan offense. You'd see a lot more under center. Okay, you'd see a lot more stretch zone and bootleg off of it, where the quarterback comes sort of free off of a good running game. You'd see play action be, even more effective. Play action typically is more effective with a quarterback under center because the defense loses sight of the ball on the play fake when the quarterback turns his back to the defense. So some of that, I think, makes sense, but that's not what Kingsbury is running here. And what he ran last year was pretty damn effective. They were one of the best offenses in the league. Look, I think Thursday night, he got hit too much in the pocket. He got hit too much outside of the pocket. They certainly could have protected him better, a lot better in pass pro. And part of that was play calling with perhaps, giving the running game with running backs a little bit more. There's not a lot you can do here other than Jayden making good decisions based on the game context. You don't need to take on tacklers in an open field play in the first quarter on 1st and 10, in a 0-0 game. But there's no way I would ever want him on 4th and 7 in the fourth quarter down 6 to say, I'm going to protect myself and go out of bounds. No, that's not him. But I do agree with what Cam said. I think a part of him, because he is such a competitor and such a baller, I think he likes the contact. I do. All right. I see everybody on hold. JYD, Lou, Anthony, Billy, Rod, Paulie just jumped on. Stay there. We'll do one more segment of these calls. A, do you think he'll play on Sunday? B, is there a solution that you believe exists to minimize the number of times Jayden's getting hit? If you don't know this, and it is true, There's data out there. He was the most hit quarterback in 2024, and through 2 weeks, he's the most hit quarterback in the NFL through the first 32 games of the season. All right, Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
Yes, you are correct. That's just who he is, which I also love about him, by the way. But it is that's my job, to make sure that one, I'm getting all the information, from the medical side. Is he hitting all the tests? And then you also have to trust your eyes. Where's he at? Where are we going? And so we're just not going to miss it, JP, for he and for any of the guys in that space. So that is the good part of being a competitor. But I'm constantly watching and pushing to see. And then before we even get onto the practice field, they have to go through a pretty strenuous testing to see where they're at, even before the actual on-field, reps begin. So that's for he and for a couple of the other guys as well.
Dan Quinn yesterday talking about Jayden Daniels and, making sure they protect him from himself. And I think that's really about this week. and making sure that his competitiveness doesn't lead to him getting back out onto the field practice-wise or otherwise earlier than, the medical says he should. 301-230-0980. What we learned yesterday is that from the reporting, not necessarily from Quinn, Jayden's got a sprained knee. We have no idea the severity of the sprained knee. The MRI, according to ESPN, John Keim, revealed no serious damage. Quinn called him day to day, and we'll probably learn much more about his status tomorrow with the first injury report and the first practice, and on Friday when they'll probably have to make the call as to whether or not he will play Sunday against the Raiders. Most spots, if you're interested in this stuff, do not have a point spread on the game right now. The reason being, they don't know who's going to play quarterback. I will tell you this, that Washington was a 6.5 point favorite before yesterday. And when and if the line opens up and you can bet it for real, that line will be closer to pick 'em. Jayden is a 5 or 6 point starting quarterback. It's about as high as it gets. We talked about this a few weeks ago. There was I forget who wrote the story about the value of quarterbacks in the NFL to the point spread. And he was certainly in the top 5, 6, 7 in the league. I think Josh Allen was number 1. Part of that also includes what the backup situation is. Washington has a capable backup in Marcus Mariota, who was not healthy for much of the summer. I'm assuming he is now. Obviously, he was the backup in the opener and in week 2. All right, the question, 2-part. 1, do you think he'll play Sunday? Just your hunch. 2, do you think there's a solution? And if so, what is the solution to minimizing the number of hits that Jayden takes? Let's go to our guy Anthony in D.C. Anthony, thanks so much. Go ahead.
Kevin, allow me to be uncoachable for a quick second.
Okay.
All these people talking about wide receiver separation. Wide receiver separation isn't always a one-way street. The quarterback has to have time to throw, thereby giving the receivers time to run the pattern.
Right.
So just for all the people out there that keep harping on receiver separation.
Play design matters too.
Oh, of course. Of course. So as far as will he play, I believe he will. Now, as far as the solution goes, you can make your pick. I know you've heard the saying that some people don't believe it stinks until they smell it. Or you could use FAFO. Basically, it comes down to Cliff, Dan Quinn, and Jayden being sick and tired of getting hit.
Okay.
It comes down to the coach. At some point, Dan Quinn is going to have to say something. You need to get down or get out of bounds. One of the two. The other caller said Jayden likes getting hit. Maybe that's true, but if he keeps getting hit hard enough, he's going to get tired of getting hit. Same with Cliff. The way he calls plays, he sees Jayden getting hit. Call different plays. Call plays that run him to the side more, not straight up the middle. Or tell them the first time you see somebody within 2 feet of you, slide. That's what it's going to come down to.
Thanks, Anthony.
Simple.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good call. Let's go to Rod in Landover. Rod, go ahead. Rod, you there? Hello, Rod. Put Rod on hold. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy.
What's up?
L to the W, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right, man. Hey, I'm going to say this, man. Look, this is about play calling, context of the game, personnel, and listen, Jayden, this is football, man. He's going to take hits, but they got to do a better job of knowing the why. And what your man Lavero say? Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
Was the juice worth the squeeze to go get that last touchdown? And we've seen this last year and this year. When the game is out of contact, out of reach, Why are we putting him at harm's way? And they do this a lot with him.
They did it in the opener last year against Tampa. I thought that was absurd.
They did it. They did it in the preseason last year. When he had the rib injury, whatever injury it was. I know you don't believe it was broken rib, but whatever it was, they didn't deviate from the offense. Ran the same offense. I mean, at some point, they got to realize, like you said, he don't have the body of Cam Newton and Jalen Hurts. Well, I don't know. Maybe Cliff got burgundy and gold glasses and think he do. Because we all, it's obvious to us why. I don't understand why it's not obvious to them, man. It's like, I don't know. They have to save that Jayden. They have to protect Jayden better than what they're doing. Basically, what I'm saying, man. And also with personnel, you see, homeboy at right tackle was getting beat like a drum Thursday night. He struggled a little bit against the Giants. Help him out. I mean, it's not just one solution that's going to minimize these hits. You know, it's like everybody said, the running game. I mean, it's almost like a combination of three different things that actually could come from the coaching staff that can minimize his hits. But you can't take the football out of Jayden. I mean, he's not like RG3, where RG3 was a pinata out there.
Right.
He's not a pinata.
No, he's not.
You know,
Agreed.
He's just trying to make a play. And sometimes in making a play, you know, things happen. But he shouldn't be trying to make a play when you're down 2 scores with 4 minutes left.
You know what? That is
really
per usual. The first point you made was your best point, and then it was diminishing returns. I'm kidding, of course, because I think you're everything you said. I agree with everything you said. I'm just having fun with you. But you know what? I'm really pissed at myself for not suggesting that they pulled him in the game on Thursday night. And if not pulled him, then didn't have him out there at risk, because it was 27-10. You couldn't protect him. People weren't getting open. You're not winning that football game. It is a 1 out of a 100 situation that you're winning that football game. It's a short week. It's week 2. You've already seen him get blown up multiple times in the game. And by the way, if they knew that he had the knee injury on the first play of the fourth quarter, which by the way, I don't think they did. That's my guess. Yeah, we should have seen either a majorly conservative approach to the end of that game or pull him on the short week. Absolutely.
Sheehan, I said the same thing about Austin Eckler. Same type of thing. He got hurt with under 2 minutes left. Why the hell was he in the game? You know he's injury prone and one concussion away from his career being over. Why was he in the game? I mean, that's a perfect opportunity to give Bill some experience. Everybody loves Bill. You know, so I think this coaching staff has to do a better job of coaching and managing this team. You know, I don't think that's happening right now. So,
honestly, looking back, 27-10 at 17-10, the score indicated that it was a close game. It never felt like it was a close game. And when when they scored with 8 minutes to go to make it 24-10, when they kicked the field goal to make it 27-10 with like 6 minutes to go, game over. Jayden doesn't play. Eckler doesn't play. We put Marcus in the game and we put Bill in the game and let Bill run, 3 times. And if they move the chains, great. If not, punt it. Let's get the hell out of Dodge and live for another day. I'm actually really that's exactly how they should have handled it. And if you go back to the opener last year, Kingsbury pretty much admitted after that Tampa Bay game when he was running Jayden on designed runs, on option runs down 37 to whatever it was. They were getting there. I mean, there was no chance of winning that football game. And he's down there at the goal line running zone reads and getting smacked around. They absolutely should have considered that, especially short week. You weren't winning that football game, down 27-10. Good call.
All right. That's how I see it, man. Hell to the W.
Yep, see you. David's calling from Arkansas. David, do you think he'll play Sunday, and is there a solution to minimizing the number of hits he takes?
I think he'll play. I'll be fine if he doesn't. I'll be fine if he does play. The solution is, especially for last Thursday, they should have ran more 22 personnel, even 32 personnel. You've got
32 personnel,
pass
yes.
rushers. Oh, load it up, brother. Because think about
Full
this.
house backfield.
I mean, not every play, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'd rather see that than them continue to line up 5 wide when you have a team that's only rushing 4 and getting instant pressure.
Yes.
It wasn't like people keep making the comparisons to RG3. How many times did we watch Cooley do the breakdowns and show Griffin holding the ball for 6
Right.
or 7 seconds and then
Yeah.
throw his team on the bus? Jayden was getting instant pressures.
No doubt.
And I'm thinking, like, as good as we know Jayden is and how well he played last year, we praise him for being so smart, making good decisions. Who else could have done any better behind in those circumstances? You know, going 5 wide with basically 1 Mississippi, and you got to get rid of the ball. And as far as like people saying he should,
yeah,
I mean that's basically what it was, Kev. And you think about this.
It wasn't
I don't
5
think
wides
our running
consistently,
game-
but they could not go when Bates left the game. There was really no more 12 personnel. You just and they decided that they weren't going to run the football, and that would have been the best protection. And yeah, I don't disagree.
And I think that was a poor decision because I mean, how many tight ends did we have for the game? Did we not have any more tight ends to put in?
Well, we had Sinnott.
Not-
Yeah, we had Sinnott, we had Ertz, we had Bates, and we had Yankoff, who was out there. But the fact that Ben Sinnott, after Bates left after 9 snaps, only played 3 snaps the rest of the way is a little bit of an indictment on Sinnott, with one exception. It is possible that Sinnott wasn't, ready on a short week to take the 12 personnel plays, part of the playbook. And it may not be that they didn't have confidence in him. And it may be he didn't get the reps, and he'll get the reps obviously this week heading into the game against the Raiders. Thanks, David. Appreciate the call. Let's go to JYD. JYD, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
What's up?
Well, more likely he'll play. Hello, hey, I'm on.
Go ahead, slow down.
Yeah, basically what happens is that he will probably play simply because of his, that's the type of player he is.
Right.
However, they need to, I think, put him more on the center. And a whole lot of people have said the same thing. He needs to be more on the center because on the center, you can do. I think you can do so many other more things or whatever. You can do more play action, and your drop doesn't have to be. You can do quicker drops and whatever, and you can still see the field, whatever. Having said that or whatever, the guy at right tackle is Adam Peters' guy. Now, Adam Peters, to me, I know everybody's going to say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Adam Peters is a stubborn guy, and he has something to prove. He wants to make sure that this is his pick, and he wants to make sure that this guy is out there and not considered a failure. Okay, he's not. He won't be. He's probably not a failure, but you need to put a more seasoned guy out there or whatever. Now, as far as Senate goes, you all love him. Look. You got to look. It doesn't take rocket science to get out there. You and play tight end if you're supposed to be so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look on your Adam Peters stuff. Thanks, JYD, as always, for the call. Adam Peters is not making the call once he handles the roster on who plays and how much. That better not be his call. Those are coaching decisions that they've got to make. I do think that Connerly Jr. is a talent. We'll find out whether or not he, is worthy and was worthy of a first-round pick, not after 2 games, but after, a minimum of 2 years of games. Let's go to Lou in D.C. Lou, does he play Sunday? And do you have any ideas or solutions for minimizing the number of times Jayden Daniels is getting hit in games? Go ahead.
What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, Lou.
If it was up to me, I'd say hell no. I'll set him for the next 3 or 4 weeks because
why?
I mean, number one, still early in the season. I want him to be 100%. And
what if he is 100% though?
Kevin, what I saw on that Thursday night.
What if he's 100% next week? You'd sit him against the Falcons?
If he's 100%, and then I'll let him go. But if he's trying to, tell him 100%, and he wants to go out there and get hurt, and it's kind of like a deja vu again back in 2011, 2012 season with RG3. So I don't want that situation to happen. I want him, for the long run. I want him to be healthy. I want him to have a good career. Like what I saw like the last couple of weeks is the play calling sucks. I mean, this guy's doing a quarterback draw when you down by 10 and like in the third quarter. I mean, I just don't get it, and I just feel like they're not protecting him. I mean, they're not running the ball, and they're not helping the rookie left tackle. I mean, if you got to do sub him and put somebody else, it's okay. But don't get Jayden killed out there for some, you trying to get the W and you want to look good for your resume and things like that. I don't like it. And I just felt like they need to be like Paulie said, they need to be better at coaching. They're not coaching right now. They are like.
Well, Paulie had the best point of anybody today. Why was he in the game down 27-10 with 6 minutes to go? And the game is over. The game is over, especially the context being you couldn't protect, you couldn't get open, and you decided you weren't going to run the football in the second half. Oh, by the way, you couldn't get off the field on defense. So those are the situations where I think they've got to be a little bit smarter. If it's a game that you've been moving the ball up and down the field and you're down 17 with 6 to go and you think you can score quickly and you can get a stop, I mean, but that game on that night, it was one-sided and he was at risk in the game from the start because of the pressure and the lack of protection. Why is he in there down 27-10? I'm all for, the hyper-competitive quarterback and coaching staff and the whole thing. But there is a point in time in which your guy is getting absolutely torn up in the pocket and outside it. Let's live to fight another day. Thanks, Lou. Let's go to Billy. Billy, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Kevin, does the Philadelphia Eagle team run the tush push against Sean Taylor?
I don't. Again,
if Sean Taylor were still on the field, you would not be able to run the tush push.
He blew up a punter in the
because
Pro
the
Bowl
whole
game,
world would know.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole world knows that the ball carrier is the quarterback, and when Sean Taylor knows what's going to happen, the player is going to get closed out.
What do you say? What do you say about Jayden? Will he play Sunday? Do you have a solution?
You got to focus on punishing the quarterback. The way they line up doesn't make any sense. The whole Jayden thing is we've somehow miraculously, our team who suffered for 30 years landed the goose that lays the golden egg. This guy is the best quarterback in the history of the league. And you don't have Dan Marino running options, RPOs, and you don't have Peyton Manning running RPOs. This guy can throw the ball just like those two guys. So what you do, Cliff, is you take all those pages in your 600-page playbook and throw them away. Throw them away. And for the next 15 years, we'll have one of the best quarterbacks that ever played the game throwing the ball all over the field. And let him pick his spots where he needs a first down on 3rd and 14 and go out and get it. The idea that he is a ball carrier in this offense is obscene. It is absolutely it's negligent to have him carrying the ball like a running back. He is the best quarterback that ever played, and he's running the ball like a running back.
Well,
negligent.
Look, I'm going to disagree with you, but also agree with you. I think that he's not, a running back. This is not the same as a true dual threat only quarterback. He is a great pocket passer. He has the ability to do that. But when you have a quarterback with that kind of ability, you've got to take that incredible advantage of presenting him as a run threat, and for him to be a legitimate run threat. Occasionally, he's got to run the football, designed runs, option runs, etc. You never want to take away his ability to extend plays. You'd never want him to be Peyton Manning.
For Baltimore? What has it done for Baltimore?
Do you really want to go there?
It's done nothing.
What do you? They've got the best. They've got, I think, other than Kansas City, the best win percentage in the regular season, and then they are there fighting for it in the depths of the playoffs every year. But yes, he has not played well in the postseason. Lamar Jackson has not.
Three more parades
with Flacco,
with the other quarterback, Flacco. They'd have three more parades.
I love Flacco too, but there aren't three more parades had he stayed the quarterback. Let's go to our guy Ba. Ba, go ahead.
What's going on, Kevin?
What's up, Ba?
Man, Kevin, I'm going to another angle. First of all, I'm praying he play. But Kevin, even if he doesn't play, Kevin, I'm going to the free agent. Because, Kevin, we brought Tunsil here, hoping this guy going to sit down. Tunsil was some trash Sunday. And I cannot understand you bring somebody and get him all that money to protect the blind side of the quarterback. And this guy, like, he's missing. Connolly, I'm going to give him a pass. You know why, Kevin? Because he was moved from left to right. So that means he's the future. I'm not happy about Tunsil. And I'm putting it on Peter because Peter is the one going over there and say, this guy's going to take us over there. And on the top of that, Clifford got to use Rodriguez. Sometimes we need some tough yard. This young kid is good, the rookie. But you need them tough yard. Edmund signing is not the solution. So if they cannot beat the Raiders on Sunday, Peter going to have to explain himself. I'm a holler y'all.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I would like to see Rodriguez. I'd like to see Bill. I'd like to see an attempt to run the football. I'll tell you, last night, the Chargers were not very effective with the rookie from North Carolina, Hampton, or Najee Harris running the football. It was basically all Justin Herbert throwing the football in that game. In the opener, the Raiders faced the Patriots, and on the ground in that game, the Patriots did nothing on the ground, literally nothing. So the Raiders have in their first two games stopped the run pretty effectively. It's just two games. We'll see. But yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more of Bill and a little bit more of Rodriguez. I'd like to see some Rodriguez, actually. DC, Akakik. DC, finish it up for us. Go ahead.
Great day, Kevin, man. I'm disappointed in the coaching staff, particularly the play calling. I watched that defense all game come with that speed and aggression. We didn't run the ball to get our guys to use their aggression against them. And Jayden, he plays if he's 100%. If he's out there with that bulky lineman RG3 knee brace, he better not be on the field. If he's on the field, Peters all the way down need to be let go. But I don't see that happening. He plays if he's 100% and shows them this week he can move the way he normally moves, because we also see that the linemen had trouble protecting him. And these injuries aren't coming when he's running and using his eyes to protect himself. Even the times he does the little fake get out of bounds and people hit him, but they don't get a clean hit. They graze him because he can see and he can contort his body to get the 1 yard or so. He was trying to escape the pocket, and he doesn't escape out the back of the pocket. He climbs the pocket like he's supposed to, continues to look downfield, and then he tries to use his wiggle to get away. And his line isn't protecting him, so you protect them with the run game, and you use your running backs to do it. They didn't do that last week, and that was so disappointing to me throughout the whole game.
I think they should have tried it.
I look forward to them correcting it.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate the call. I think they should have tried it. I don't know if it would have worked, but I would have preferred to have seen something to try to take the pressure off Jayden Daniels, because they certainly did not do a great job protecting him. All right, 12 noon, 10 minutes away from, I think you're going to enjoy Steve Sudter and his film breakdown of Washington Green Bay from Thursday night. We'll talk a little bit about the two Monday night games that we have not talked about yet, including Baker Mayfield doing it for a second straight week. That's next.
All right. Happy Tuesday. It is September 16th. Dan Quinn announced yesterday that Jayden Daniels had an MRI after Thursday Night Football versus the Packers and is day to day with a knee sprain, putting his status for Sunday in jeopardy. The Nats, they followed the Braves by a score of 11-3 last night. Tough time to be Mitch Parker as he pitched 5 innings, giving up 10 hits and 6 earned runs. The Nats, they will reset for a doubleheader versus Atlanta today. First game at 1:05. Jake Irvin on the bump for Washington. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 12:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
15-yard scramble from Baker Mayfield on 4th and 10 on the game-winning drive. They went down there. He was great. Rachaad White ended up getting the run to put them ahead 20-19. He became the second quarterback in Tampa Bay Bucks history to open up the season with 2 consecutive game-winning drives. He did it last week against Atlanta. Since Doug Williams was the quarterback in Tampa Bay in 1980. They've had some good quarterbacks over the years, including Tom Brady recently. We will talk about Tom Brady before the end of this show. Did you see him in the coach's booth last night for the Raiders with the headset on? Definitely seems to be some conflicts there with Brady. Great game, the first game last night. Tampa Bay wins it 20-19. Baker Mayfield is off to an outstanding start to this season. Last night, 25 of 38 for 215, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he had 3 huge runs, scrambles for 33 yards, including that 15-yarder on 4th and 10. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers 2-0 for the 5th straight year. I'll tell you, the Bucks, whether it was the Brady era or without Brady, Todd Bowles at the helm, they have started off quickly. Their defense is healthy. It's good. I think, Max, you picked them to be in the NFC Championship game, the Buccaneers, and to be the 1 seed. You had them as the 1 seed. Yeah.
I'm very high
Bucks
on
are
them. They continue to prove me right. Let's hope it continues.
The MVP odds have been updated, as they are constantly updated. Josh Allen 1, Lamar Jackson 2 in terms of the top 2 guys. Allen's plus 310 in most spots on average. Jackson plus 350. Then Justin Herbert is 3rd. Jordan Love 5th. Jayden Daniels, and Baker Mayfield at plus 2,000 is the 6th pick to win the MVP. But a good win for the Buccaneers. They have the Jets this weekend, and then really a titanic game in week 4 against the Eagles. The Eagles are playing a couple of 1 o'clock games here in the next 2 weeks. The Rams 1 o'clock, and then the Buccaneers at 1 o'clock. This is a Fox doubleheader week upcoming, and they got the Bears and the Cowboys in that spot instead of the Rams and the Eagles. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But it's the way they scheduled it. But man, the Eagles with the Rams and Bucks the next 2 weeks. Rams at home, Bucks on the road. The second game last night, Raiders and Chargers. I'll be honest with you, I fell asleep at halftime. I tried. Geno Smith threw 3 picks in this game. Let me just mention one thing that stood out about the Raiders. Ashton Genty just looks so small on the football field. I know he is height, deficient at 5'8", 5'9", but he looks thin. I thought he was a bit tougher and bulkier looking. He's listed at 210. He doesn't look that, and he has not gotten off to a great start. In fact, they really struggled with him in pass protection. It begs to the question, do you really take a running back at number 6 overall that you are going to have off the field for a lot of the game because you're not good enough in pass protection? Look, he's young. There's a long way to go here. It's just 2 games. But through 2 games, 30 carries, 81 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. That's it. By the way, his 5 pass receptions in 2 games have amounted to 3 total yards, or 0.6 of a yard per pass reception. Early struggles for the number 6 pick, Ashton Genty. The Raiders come into town. The biggest issue with the Raiders will be their defense. Washington's going to get a 3rd straight solid defensive team to open up the season, of course, led by Max Crosby. All right, when we come back, you're going to hear a very, very good film breakdown of Washington's game against Green Bay. That's next. So I had somebody reach out to me about 2 weeks ago. That somebody was Matt Swope. Matt is the head baseball coach at the University of Maryland. Matt said, and he's a listener to the show, he said, you know who'd be great at film breakdown, almost like Cooley, is Steve Sudter. You should ask him to do it. Steve Sudter is a part of the Maryland football radio broadcast team. He and Johnny Holiday call the games. Steve's really good. I've had him on the show many times to talk Terps football, and he's a very good analyst. He's also fearless. He's far from a homer, and he's really good at analyzing football, and he is a big football fan and a lifelong Washington fan as well, although admittedly he's lost some of that passion in recent years, like a lot of us have, but he's back into it again with the results last year. So I asked him if he'd take a swing at breaking down the film from the All-22 and see how it went. He was on my podcast yesterday. He was so good. I'm going to play a portion of that for you right now, about 15 minutes, the very beginning of it, where he gives you kind of the whole layout of the game. He did get into grading players, and, we can talk about that, and you can listen to it on my podcast. But I wanted you to hear Steve. He's really good. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it every week. It's a lot of work. Cooley used to tell me, he's like, it's basically an all-day thing if you're going to really do it right, breaking down every play, every player on every play. But it started off yesterday on my podcast with me just getting his reaction after watching the All-22 of the loss in Green Bay.
So watching it on the broadcast first, obviously you get those normal impressions as you're watching the game. And I would say you either validate those watching the All-22 or sometimes that can change your mind. So I would say watching on the broadcast, they just looked like they were outmatched Washington in all phases, offensively, defensively, and coaching. I had some question marks going in. I prepared, obviously. I watched the Giants game. Then I watched the Packers play the Lions. And what I got off of that was, wow, the Giants were very vanilla on defense. And I'm talking very vanilla. You saw cover three or you saw man coverage, and it was easy and obvious. And there was no, extracurricular stuff in the secondary where they're making disguises and being extravagant and that nature. And so from that standpoint, they got probably 75% man coverage from the Giants. Very vanilla. Then I watched the Packers versus the Lions. Total opposite. A lot of zone and very detailed in the back end and the secondary and very extravagant, showing a lot of different shells. If they looked like they were in cover three, they weren't going to end up in cover three. It was a lot of rolling into different coverages. My thoughts were, too, going into the game. Is that because they're doing that because Jared Goff is a pocket passer and they're trying to make that picture at the back end different on the post snap? And is the Giants, conversely, being very vanilla on defense because they're worried about keeping Jayden in the pocket? So those are things I was trying to pay attention to watching the game. Now, what happened was what the Packers did to the Lions. They were just very creative at the back end. They gave Jayden Daniels a lot of different pictures and everybody on offense, a lot of zone, almost no man coverage. A couple times they brought pressure. They were successful. So now then you go into the All-22. I was very disappointed, I think, from the coach's standpoint. Clint Kingsbury just didn't seem prepared, in my opinion, because it was obvious what type of coverages they were going to run watching the line film. I'm not saying it's easy to decode the coverage live during the game, but you should have gone into that game, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, with 10 to 12 zone beaters for cover two and for cover three, because that's what you were going to see from the Packers. And then it was up to Jayden and the offense to decipher them. So they weren't prepared. I don't think so. The game plan wasn't good offensively. Defensively, they were very stale. They ran a lot of man coverage and way too easy to decipher for Jordan Love and the Packers. You could see during the game they started bringing a lot of motion from the receivers and in the corners. Lattimore and the other guys from Washington were following them across the formation. Well, that's an easy tell that you're in man coverage. And once they were given that look to Jordan Love, it was easy pickings. So there's a lot of guys running open, and it's because the matchups of man coverage, the secondary of the Commanders, they weren't switching correctly. Sometimes they would switch, or what we would call banjo. So one guy's going to take the outside guy, the other guy's going to take the inside guy. Sometimes they tried to stay locked in on their guy, but the communication on the back end wasn't good. So they were messing that up occasionally, and when they were, Jordan Love was making them pay. what I took out from watching the All-22, Jordan Love is top-tier quarterback. Every mistake that the Commanders made on defense, and it was particularly one person or two people made a mistake each play, Jordan Love found it and capitalized on it. A lot of the big plays to Kraft were because the secondary were miscommunicating, and those little mistakes, Jordan Love found them and took care of them.
I think I'm curious first to ask you about the offensive side of the ball where, you talked about Detroit basically, faced a Green Bay team that was heavy zone, and Cliff Kingsbury should have had more zone beaters against cover 2 and cover 3 in particular. How much of that was obvious that they weren't running stuff to beat zone versus the pass rush was very effective and they weren't able to get to it?
So, yeah, it's real easy for the defensive coordinator for the Packers right now, Jeff Hart. I think it's Halfley.
Yeah.
He's getting pressure without bringing pressure. And the best defenses every year in any level of football are the defense that can get pressure with the front four and they can drop 7 in coverage. So he has that luxury, and I think it's probably going to be his game plan for the entire season is to call his base defense, and I say base in air quotes because it's very complex in the back end. But up front, it's only usually 4 people coming. And if he can continue all year going into each game, getting pressure with his front four, then there's no reason to change. Every third down or so, he'll switch it up, and he's going to bring some pressure because you're not expecting it because you're getting zoned. So he's going to have that luxury. The games where he's not getting pressure with the front four, he's going to have to change up. So what was successful for him is early on, he's calling these zone plays and he's having the secondary change and roll coverage, and his front four is getting pressure. So, I mean, he doesn't even have to think, right? His game plan is working, stay the course, because Jayden Daniels isn't going to have enough time. So I'll use a specific example. They had this one coverage. It's really, really intricate. It looks like cover 3. You got a deep middle safety, and they ran this against the Lions. I highlighted it because I even said there's no way that anybody can read this coverage correctly. It's just so intricate. Well, the deep middle third safety on the snap of the ball, he bolts down and becomes essentially a linebacker, and he's playing a curl zone there. And the 2 corners who you think are playing deep third, they turn into the 2 safeties, and they play the cover 2 safety. And so now they still have a cover 2 shell, but they're doing it from a really odd look. And I just think it's really difficult to read. So they did it against the Lions. It was successful. It gave Goff some problems. They never really completed the pass. Well, they did it on the first third down against Washington. So it turned out to be any time it was like 3rd and 8 or long, they were calling this play. So they did the first third down, and Jayden and them couldn't decipher it. They didn't have a play to beat it. They got pressure from the front four, and so you get an incomplete pass, and you got to punt the football. The second possession, 3rd and 7 or longer again, they ran the same inverted cover 2, the same look. You would have think Kingsbury would call a play to think it's coming and have a beater for it. They didn't. That's another 3 and out. So they didn't have an answer for that coverage. One way to attack it, because essentially it's a cover 2, is you can either attack it with depth, like you stretch it. We're taking 4 verticals, or we're taking 4 people deep, and we're going to try to isolate those safeties that have to try to cover 4. But to do that, you need time for those routes to develop.
Right.
And what didn't they have? The Commanders, they didn't have the time. The front four is getting pressure. It wasn't, you don't need a rocket science for me to tell you, Micah Parsons was causing problems every time he was on the field, and everywhere he lined up, he was essentially, if not beating the Commanders' offensive line, he was getting pressure. So just not prepared from that standpoint. And then that type of thing just weighs on a quarterback. And I think during the course of the game, Jayden started just losing trust in his reads, losing trust reading the defense down the field. And then his play clock, his pocket clock was getting shorter and shorter because he didn't trust the offensive line to have protection. All those things add up. And then you go to an offense that's not effective, and your quarterback's not reading the field correctly. And if he has a window, if he gets usually only one guy game, and he just couldn't find him. And like particularly the second possession, I want to say it was, and the second play, Commanders go max protection. They run a deep comeback to McCullen, to Terry. It's a 18-yard comeback. And they're in max protection. There's only 2 people going on the route. So this ball is supposed to go to Terry. And Terry's open. And Jayden's looking at him. And for whatever reason, just dumps it off to Eckler on a check down. He just gives up on the play. So that right away was like, oh, man, Jayden, he's not seeing the field right, because this play was called to go there. We are blocking everybody to make sure we can get protection to send the ball over there, and you still didn't throw it, and he was open. That's a red flag. So you could just tell from that point on he wasn't comfortable in the pocket, didn't trust the plays. I agree with him. I didn't like the route concept that I saw for most of the game. Just weren't in positions to be successful. And then the players on the outside, I'll be hard on the perimeter guys. Zach Ertz, he looks rough out there at this age. He's been a great player for so long, but I know he was the leading receiver too, and it's funny for me to say that, but other than the touchdown where he looked a little spry on his cut right after he caught the ball and got some yak and got in the end zone, not really an option for most of the game for Jayden. Terry, not really an option for him most of the game. Wasn't winning on man coverage. The zone routes he was on was either like a 5-yard curl, or he was running a deep corner and he just isn't getting down the field to stretch it. So really a perfect storm for the Commanders on offense. And then the offensive line didn't give him any help. We can get to that specifically, but Connerly he had a rough night. Almost 80, I would say 80% of the time, almost every time Micah lined up on him, he beat him, even if he didn't make the play. He was getting beat on his up and under routinely throughout the night. Gary got him on it as well. When they tried to help him with chips, they didn't work. Sometimes they chipped him and it made it worse, or Mike was splitting the double team anyway. Tunsil had a rough time on the edge too as well. We can get in, those are my two lowest graded players on offense. It was Connerly by far, and then Tunsil was second there. Offensively, just didn't give him time. You can't let 4-man rushes just beat you. Right. If that's the case, you're not going to win. You gotta be able to block against 4-man rush.
We'll get to the grades in the next segment, but I have to ask you, why didn't Cliff Kingsbury even attempt to run the football with their rookie running back, Krosky Merritt? His nickname, he wants to be called Bill Krosky Merritt. Why didn't they try to run the football more?
I couldn't answer that question because it didn't make sense to me. And what I wrote down, and I was texting a buddy of mine while I was watching the game live, and said, they did not call a draw for Daniels until the last play of the third quarter. And maybe you just take him for granted that Jayden's going to get you some rushing yards as a quarterback when he scrambles, and you count those as running plays for your quarterback. But that wasn't the case, and I was disappointed when you're struggling to move the football and you've got a 4-man rush. A draw is a good call, a quarterback draw, especially with Jayden Daniels. The guy can't run, right? Because you're going to have the linebackers are already bailing. They're not blitzing, because you're only going to have the 4-down linemen, and 2 of those guys are going to be able to get up to the second level. Utilize Jayden Daniels in the run game. Or you can call a draw as well and hand it off to Bill, like you mentioned. The draws work against those coverages when you have guys all line up on the line of scrimmage. They're trying to fake you out like we're bringing pressure, and then everybody tails, and we're only bringing 4. Well, it's an easier job to get to the second level. So don't make the runs obvious, and you're in your 12, 13 personnel, and you're trying to load the box, and you're doing that zone read stuff. They didn't do the zone read effective either, in my opinion. Every person that they left unblocked for the Packers defense, when they left them unblocked, made the play. So the first zone read, they left Van Dess. They left him to be the zone read. Yeah, he just knifed down and tackled Zeckler. He didn't care about Jayden pulling the ball at all, because it probably wasn't his responsibility. They got a linebacker ready for him. They don't block Gary, and next time they do a zone read, and he comes down the line and makes the tackle. And there's another occasion they're doing the zone read, they unblock the defender, and they make the play. So you need to have a better line. The Packers defense didn't respect Jayden Daniels as a runner for this game. And it could have been their game plan going in, saying, we're going to play him straight up like he's a normal quarterback that can't scramble. And if he burns us maybe once or twice, then we might make an adjustment. But he never did. So they didn't have to make any adjustments. So it's, again, another easy game for Jeff Hafley to call, because the Commanders didn't do anything dynamic to make him have to, go outside of what he wanted to do.
You just brought up something that I talked about after the game, and It's funny because I think he had some issues with this last week against the Giants and a couple of times last year. It's been very hard to find anything super critical, constructively critical on Jayden over his first, 22 NFL games. But the zone read they ran early in the first quarter, where, as you said, N crashed down, didn't play Jayden at all. I thought it was very obvious that Jayden made the wrong decision. You got to pull that on that play, right?
Agreed. Yeah. So I write down, that's my note. I watch the play and you say he's got to pull that. But, I'm not in the huddle. You assume it was a zone read, but that's not always the case.
Right.
And sometimes it is always a handoff.
Right.
Maybe he's not reading that. But, and I only say that because I'm pretty sure it was Zach Ertz who was to the left who was blocking. So if he pulled it, Zach Ertz was there to block the DN, not Van Ness, but the other DN. So that's why I thought it's a zone read, because he still has a blocker out there for in case he pulls it. So I agree that was a pull all the way. Van Ness didn't care about Jayden, and I think that just reiterated my thought. Right, that was their game plan going in. And the Packers, we're not going to respect him as a runner until he beats us. So yes, Jayden probably made the mistake there. Should have pulled, and maybe they just stopped calling it.
That was Steve Sudter doing a film breakdown. There was a lot more to it. You can hear it on my podcast. He was very, very critical of the play calling, the game plan, the readiness of Kingsbury in the offense, and he really got after Joe Witt Jr. in the defensive game plan as well. And, netting it out, he came away very impressed with the Packers, Jordan Love in particular. But pretty good at doing this, and he gets into the players in more detail and grades them out, grades Jayden's performance, which he said was not very good, but he didn't get much help anywhere also. All right. That segment with Steve is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Football Talk is presented by Paramount Plus on this show. Sylvester Stallone is back in the original hit series Tulsa King. This season, Dwight faces his most dangerous adversaries yet, forcing him to fight for everything he's built and to protect his empire. Stream the new season of Tulsa King on Sunday, September 21st, exclusively on Paramount Plus. If you've been thinking about new windows, Window Nation is the answer. It's my recommendation. Call them at 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. Their deal right now is the most popular that they offer during the course of the year. It's buy 2 windows, get the next 2 free, and they give you the option of not paying anything for 2 full years. So no down payment, no payments, and no interest charged until the year 2027. It all starts with a free, no obligation in-home estimate. So if you've been talking about new windows because you've got older windows, you're paying too much for heating and air conditioning because the windows you have are old and not very well insulated, just get the estimate from Window Nation. Have them come out. They'll actually identify for you which windows need to be replaced. It'll happen in an hour or less. It'll happen when it's convenient for you. Just call them at 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com for a free in-home, no obligation, no pressure estimate. If you choose to move forward with Window Nation after being left with the offer, with the quote, with the estimate, you'll work with an unbelievable company when it comes to their product, their customer service. They were recently ranked highest on Forbes's list of best window installation companies in America. They've got over 45,000 five-star reviews, and you're going to get a phenomenal deal. 2 free windows with every 2 purchased, meaning you're getting half price on the windows, and you don't have to pay anything until the year 2027. Don't miss out. This offer won't last long. Call them today, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. So yesterday, there was a ton of injury news. Joe Burrow done for the year. J.J. McCarthy probably out for 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Maybe that explains his trouble on Sunday night, because he was truly awful. Looked like he couldn't play the position, and maybe it's an injury, or maybe it's just that it was his second game. In Cincinnati, there was a lot of discussion yesterday about potentially reaching out to Minnesota for Kirk Cousins. They're probably not going to do that. They're probably going to go with Jake Browning. They signed Mike White and Sean Clifford, former Penn State quarterback, to their practice squad. The Bengals are off to a 2-0 start, but without Burrow, I can't imagine by the time he might be healthy enough to return sometime in December, are they really still going to be in playoff contention with Jake Browning? The answer in Minnesota for the next 2 to 4 weeks, Carson Wentz. Yeah, Carson Wentz is going to be starting at quarterback this coming Sunday. By the way, in a game against, yes, Cincinnati and Jake Browning. Not exactly an attractive matchup. Vikings also, there are discussions out there about whether or not they will reach out to Atlanta to bring Cousins back. But the J.J. McCarthy injury does not look like it's season long. It's 2 to 4 weeks. Meantime, Vic Fangio, the Eagles defensive coordinator, called out Jalen Carter after Jalen Carter played in his first game of the year after being tossed in the opener against the Cowboys. He said he played a very good game, was complimentary about his game, but said he needs to round into form conditioning-wise. Jalen Carter perhaps not in great shape. The Browns are going to stick with Flacco. They're not going to go with Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. And Jadeveon Clowney. If you missed this from over the weekend, he's signed with the Cowboys. So there you go. A lot of NFL news from yesterday, including last night, coming out of the Monday night game in Vegas. Tom Brady on the broadcast was shown in the coach's booth with a headset on. If you didn't know this, Tom Brady is an owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. This has been a conversation, going back to when he took the Fox job, the incredibly, lucrative job to be the Fox #1 team game analyst with, of course, Kevin Burkhardt on Fox. Called the Super Bowl last year. A lot of conflict of interest, with Brady and the access he gets to the teams that he will be calling games for, and the fact that he is an owner for a team. Well, last night, in addition to him being much more involved than I think a lot of people knew, it was reported by Peter Schrager at ESPN that Brady talks with offensive coordinator Chip Kelly 2 to 3 times a week. Now, Pete Carroll disputed the frequency of the conversations with Chip Kelly, but did not deny that they both talk to Brady on a weekly basis. Now, is Tom Brady talking to teams, calling games of teams, and then using the information that he has to help the Raiders? I don't know if that's true or not. I'll guess that it's not true. I'll guess that he is stand-up, honorable, and isn't taking information to help his team's cause. But it really doesn't matter because the perception, the optics around this are terrible. Now that we know he is intimately involved as an owner in the Raiders organization, sitting in the coach's booth last night, talking to Chip Kelly and to Pete Carroll multiple times per week. And why wouldn't you if you had Tom Brady as an owner in the organization? Well, there's a problem with that because the NFL relaxed the Brady rules this year. Going into this season, or going into last season, he was not permitted to be in another team's facility, still isn't, was not permitted to witness team practices, still isn't, and was not allowed to attend the broadcast production meetings and interviews with coaches and players in person or virtually. Well, that changed because he is now allowed in those very close interviews in which the broadcast teams typically get more than anybody else gets. We've talked about this for years. Coaches and players in that atmosphere tend to open up to former players, former coaches, more than they do in their weekly press conferences. And that's why it's always interesting to listen to the broadcast, to listen to not only the game analyst, but the play-by-play guy, because if they don't say it directly, sometimes they'll imply things that they've learned from the horse's mouth. The coaches, the quarterback, the key player on defense, the defensive coordinator, about what's going on within the framework of the team, and stuff that typically you don't get divulged in other, in other formats, weekly press conferences, etc. Brady's now, this year, they relaxed the rules, allowing him not in person, but virtually via Zoom or any other virtual connection to attend those production meetings with the play-by-play guy, with the producers of the games, in the interviewing of coaches and players for those teams. Now, those players and those coaches, they don't have to say anything. They can be completely vanilla in their answers and keep everything from Tom Brady so that he doesn't learn anything for the benefit of the broadcast that he will be involved in. But here's the problem, is that the perception, more so than ever after last night, seeing Brady, hearing the report that he talks to Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll multiple times per week, Brady doing these games and getting access to coaches and players virtually, not in person. He's not able to watch practices, but he can probably learn a lot about the practices, even in those interviews, because other people as part of the broadcast team have access to that. There is the perception that he now is giving the Raiders some sort of competitive advantage when they play a team in which Brady's already called one of their games. Example, Brady called the opener between Washington and the Giants. Well, guess who comes into Landover Sunday? The Raiders. He is going to call Sunday afternoon Cowboys and Bears in the 4:25 window on Fox. Guess who plays the Bears the following week? The Raiders. Now, again, I'm not being accusatory, and in fact, I'd probably lean in the direction that Brady's not immediately, when he gets done interviewing Ben Johnson as an example, or from the Skins game, Dan Quinn or Jayden Daniels, that he's immediately getting onto the phone and telling Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, hey, here's what I learned from these guys about what they're doing offensively, or it is a game-by-game basis, and the game plan for the game against the Giants may be different from the Raider game. But he can learn a lot about the teams through those conversations, and maybe if it's not a lot, maybe it's just a little bit. That could be a competitive advantage. I'm not accusing him of getting on the phone immediately and sharing that with the Raiders coaching staff and the Raiders organization, but it doesn't really matter whether he is or isn't. The perception is that he might be. Bad look for the NFL, bad optics for the NFL. They should immediately eliminate what they eliminated last year, but they relaxed the rules on this year, and that is his ability to participate, even virtually, in these production meetings, in these interviews with coaches and with players, where he can really, as Tom Brady especially, sometimes it's Tom Brady I'm talking to. I want to give him a lot. I want to help him out. I love this conversation with the GOAT. I don't think that he should be allowed in those meetings. Go ahead, show up, call the games. You know what? Most people don't pick up on what the lead analyst in the game, got from a coach or from a quarterback or from a coordinator. You got to be really into that team and understand that there might be something going on. And oh, by the way, Brady just gave us some information on what's going on behind the scenes. That is a small percentage of the people watching the game. People like Tom Brady. A lot of casual fans like Tom Brady. And if he just shows up and calls the game, that should be enough. I don't think it's going to hurt his ability to call the game. Or let me say, I don't think it's going to hurt the response to him calling the game. He might feel like he's at a disadvantage calling the game, but the ultimate output for 85 to 90% of the audience isn't going to look or feel or sound any different. But I don't think the NFL should be allowing Brady to participate in these coaches' production meetings, these coach, player, coordinator production meetings. They should go back to last year's rules and give him no access, none. If Fox wants to continue to pay him to show up and call these games, not a problem. But he should not be given access, not because he's definitely using it, but because the perception is that he could be. The optics on this are terrible for the league. They need to fix it and fix it immediately. All right. When we come back, I want to play something that Dan Quinn said about the game Thursday night that I thought was rather telling. And also, we will take a few more calls if you want to weigh in on Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is day-to-day with a sprained knee. It does appear right now that there's a chance he could miss the game on Sunday. Do you think he will? Yes or no? What's your hunch? And then what, if anything, can be done to minimize the number of hits that Jayden's been taking? If you didn't get in on the calls last hour and you want to weigh in on this, 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. Don't forget, you can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube page. You can just open up the Odyssey app, type in Team 980 and hit subscribe, and you're there.
All right. Happy Tuesday. It is September 16th. Here's what's happening in the world of DC sports. Dan Quinn announced yesterday that Jayden Daniels had an MRI after Thursday Night Football versus the Packers and is day-to-day with a knee sprain, putting his status for Sunday in jeopardy. And the Nats, they followed the Braves last night by a score of 11-3. Tough night for Mitch Parker as he goes 5 innings. He pitches 5 innings, giving up 10 hits and 6 earned runs. And Nats will reset for a doubleheader versus Atlanta today. First game at 1:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave right now on 106.7 The Fan. Jake Irvin on the bump for Washington. Nats on deck again with Charlie and Dave at 12:35. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. That is what's trending.
Yes, Max. I'm going to throw to it. Dan Quinn met with media yesterday, and big emphasis of the press conference yesterday was on Jayden Daniels. But there was an interesting question that I think David Aldridge asked him that got him into an answer that I'm not even sure had a lot to do with the question. DA asked him about the O-line and what he thought of the offensive line and the struggles on Thursday night. Here's what Quinn said.
Yeah, I really felt like it was almost like a repeat from Detroit. They got out ahead, and I didn't like how we started, really on either side of the ball, David, to say, you have to go back and look. It was either 2 punts or 3 punts, on our first 2 or 3 possessions. They drove down some. So I didn't love the way that we started. As bad as it felt, as we got into the start of the fourth quarter, you're down a touchdown. Okay, we're stayed in the fight. As bad as it felt, we didn't hit on a field goal at the end of half. We missed on a good return coming out of the half. So I thought our complementary football back and forth wasn't right. And then when it got to the 2 scores, then you're back throwing it all, to try to catch up again. So I thought, all right, can we stay in this fight? Here's our time to go take our shot. They went down to score, and that's where I thought the game changed, man, where we had 1 shot to go fight for it. Didn't love our balance, honestly, to go, that many runs and passes. At the half, there wasn't a lot of plays, so it looks at the end of the game way higher in the passing, which is not what you want to do against a team that's rushing and going. But I just didn't love, on both sides, the way we started. That's what I like. There's things that I liked, took care of the ball, those things. But just in terms of just jumping on them and being aggressive from the start, Dave, that's the thing I didn't love.
Yeah, I thought that, the admission there about didn't like the balance, did the run-pass balance was without question very interesting. They ran the ball 9 times for 34 yards in the first half, but some of those were scrambles. I mean, they came out, they threw Jayden. First 2 plays from scrimmage was a Jayden Daniels short pass. Jayden Daniels pressured, ended up getting sacked, and then a 3rd pass. So no runs on the first possession. That was 3 and out. Second possession, they did try to run Eckler twice, which set up a 3rd and 7. And then they ended up getting an illegal use of the hands. They were in 3rd and 17. They had to punt there, which was a 3 and out situation. The next possession, it was pass, play, scramble, pass, punt. So when he says that there weren't a lot of plays, that was a 6-play opportunity with a first down. Then they came back, and that was the Krosky Merritt first drive, and he gains 5 yards on the first carry. Then it's pass, Krosky Merritt again, pass play, field goal, which they made, which was good. And then, the disastrous end to the first half where they got very conservative. They called a pass play, then Eckler twice, and it was if they did not have confidence in trying to go for a score. But I think the idea that they didn't have a lot of opportunities in the first half, they had, 5 drives in the first half. That's a lot of opportunities. That's a lot of possession opportunities in a first half. Or let me just say, it's not a minimal number of opportunities, 5 opportunities. But I thought it was interesting that he did admit in that particular answer about the O-line performance that they didn't, that they got away from any, sort of semblance of balance. And the score does get sideways, but not until the fourth quarter. When they 14-3 is not a sideways score. It doesn't get you out of your game plan if your game plan is to try to run the football or at least have running the football as an option in the game. It's 17-10, early in the fourth quarter, and you got to 24-10. Understood after that, that you're just, dropping Jayden back, trying to make something happen. But look, I think it's also important to acknowledge that against that team and without Bates, because he left early, that it's very possible that Cliff didn't think they'd have any success trying to run the football with Krosky Merritt or with Eckler or with anybody else in the game. And that their best chance, even though they couldn't protect and even though the receivers weren't necessarily getting open consistently, was to still, have your quarterback and have the ball in his hands. Because let's face it, we've got a history here, 21 games going into last Thursday night, of if the ball's in his hands, more times than not, he's going to come up with a solution. He'll come up with an answer to a tough situation against a tough opponent. We've seen it over and over again. So, yeah, I get that, falling back on, no, it's still better for us if the ball is in Jayden's hands. Last year in that Pittsburgh game, remember that game? They couldn't really run the football very effectively in that game. And they put the ball into Jayden's hands, and it was not his best game. Far from it. Had, I think, his highest incompletion percentage. Pittsburgh's defense really got after him, sacked him. But he made enough plays along the way to keep them in that game, give them the lead, remember, in that game when they were down 10. They had when they were down 4, they took a 10-point lead in that game with Jayden making play after play, only to lose it late on the Mike Williams touchdown catch over Benjamin St. Just, who, by the way, was on the field last night for the Chargers. A lot of our Jeremy Chin was on the field last night in that Chargers-Raiders game. So 2/4 of the secondary played in that late Monday night game. Just interesting to hear Quinn, who typically you don't get that kind of an admission, but he would have liked to have seen, I think, a better balance. Again, may not have worked. May not have. Good reasons for them not to try it. Bates isn't in the game. Jayden's been a hero before. Let's go the route of Jayden, avoiding this bum rush, which comes quickly, and making some plays along the way. Gary in Upper Marlboro wants to weigh in on Jayden's availability Sunday, and if you've got a solution to minimizing the number of times he gets hit in games. Go ahead, Gary.
Thank you. I don't think he's going to play on Sunday, and I think that's the right move because Jayden hasn't shown in this brief period sample size that he's going to play at his best when he's banged up. I think the 3 games that they lost in a row last year, at least the scuttlebutt was that he was not fully healthy, and I don't think Jayden played up that well last year. So it's too early in season to aggravate an injury. It's better to get him at full strength and then let him come back. And one thing I would do with Jayden, I would take those design runs out of the game plan. I just think that puts him too much at risk. And people say, well, Lamar Jackson plays that way. Well, Lamar Jackson is a quarterback that runs like a running back, in my opinion. Jayden is a quarterback that can run. And the difference is that I think Lamar has more of an instinct to protect himself than Jayden. Jayden runs really upright. And I can't tell you how many times when I've seen him run where the defender just misses getting a real big hit on him because he's running so upright. So I think they need to modify the game plan. And that's real quick on Tom Brady. People forget that Tom Brady was part of the Deflategate, okay, and all that stuff that happened. So I don't have any confidence that he is going to put up a wall between the Raiders and the information that he's getting from other teams. So I agree with you 100%.
They've got to cut off his access completely. They relaxed the rules on him this summer. They can't give him access to coaches, players, and coordinators anymore before these broadcasts, period. He can show up and call the games, and that's it. Yep. I completely agree.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Back to last year, I don't feel like going down the road about just talking about, did he have a broken rib, didn't he? My gut is that it wasn't broken ribs or a broken rib. Sore, no doubt, but pain threshold different than a knee injury, etc. They let him play against Chicago. Let's not forget that, if he really was at risk, they ran him a lot. I mean, I said it in the moment last year, like that's negligence. If he legitimately was hurt and at risk, they didn't hold back on the game plan. In fact, the Giant game, which was the second game after the injury, the Hail Mary game was the first. QBR-wise, it was, the second best game of the regular season for him. 95.1 QBR, ran it 8 times for 35 yards, 15 of 22, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was outstanding in that game. Yeah, the Pittsburgh game was not his best game. The Philadelphia game on short, turnaround was obviously not his best game. But they didn't hold off on, designed option runs or tell him, get rid of the ball. We don't want to see you running around. That's my only problem with going back to that and talking as if, he didn't, he was so hurt, shouldn't have played, or that he didn't play well. Because the Giant game, which was, the next closest game to the injury game, was one of the best games he had all year. Steve in Rockville. Steve, finish it up for us. Do you think he'll play on Sunday? And do you think there's a solution to minimizing the number of times he gets hit?
Long-time listener, first-time caller, Kevin.
Thanks, Steve.
I do not think he'll play. I don't think he should. And solution, don't be on the field. I know Paulie said this earlier today. Don't be on the field with 4 minutes to go down by 17 points. It's been a pet peeve with me forever. Washington's not the only team that does this. Why are you playing your guys when you're down by that much or ahead? Get your players out of there. And I know you agree with Paulie. I'm pretty sure you did. But that's my thought on that. And why they're in there. And look at Eckler and the lineman there. I can't think of his name at the moment. But why were they in there? I know Eckler hit a Achilles. He didn't hit anybody, but he was in the game.
No, look, there is absolutely a fair argument for, down 27-10. And by the way, the context of the 27-10, your quarterback is getting absolutely blown up on every other play. Your right tackle is losing confidence by the second. You're not going to win that football game with 6 minutes to go down 27-10. You're just not. There are some games, that you might be in. Let's just say it's 45-28 and it's been an up and down the field game and nobody can stop the other. You probably want to take your swing. Like, let's get in the end zone quick, make it 45-35 and see what happens. But no, the other night, there's a really good case for Marcus Mariota should have been in there, especially if they knew that hit to the knee in the fourth quarter, on the first play of the fourth quarter, was, had him hobbling. I didn't see him hobbling until he rolled the ankle on that final drive, but he rolled the ankle on the final drive trying to make play in a game in which they weren't going to win. I'm with you. I think that is 100% right. I got to roll. Thanks for the call, Steve. Appreciate it. I'm up against it. Thanks to Tom Shad, who joined us for the first time on the show. He is the new beat reporter for the Washington Post covering the team. And thanks to Steve Sudter. Back tomorrow. Chris Russell's up next.